instructions for scoring applications for the Genesis Generation Challenge and using our online system to do so. But before we begin, I thought it would be really great to just go around and do some introductions. This is, we've communicated a lot on email, and this is the first time, a few of us are live speaking together, so I thought we could do some introductions. I'll start with me. Most everybody knows me. I'm Allie Rose. I'm a senior manager here at the Genesis Prize Foundation and have been working very closely with the Common Pool, the organization who is administering the competition out of Los Angeles, to put on the challenge. So how about Greg Shurkin? Do you want to go first and introduce yourself?
Sure, Allie. Happy to. Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Shurkin. I manage strategic philanthropy for the Walt Disney Company. I am based in Los Angeles, specifically in Glendale, California, and I'm thrilled to be part of this. Great.
Thanks so much, Greg. And that was perfect. Name, what you do, and where you hail from is great. Ken Hirsch, can you introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Ken Hirsch. I'm in Dallas, Texas. I'm the CEO of NGP Energy Capital Management and a longtime private equity investor and business school classmate of Stan Polovets, which is how I ended up getting roped into this.
That's great. Thanks so much, Ken. Appreciate it. And it looks like we have Rabbi Dr. Shmuley Yankelevich with us.
Hi, Shmuley Yankelevich. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm the executive director of the Valley Beit Midrash, which is a pluralistic learning center and also an incubator for young Jewish social entrepreneurs and training young leaders. I also am the president of Ur Tzedek and the CEO of Shemayim Va'aretz. I'm very excited to be a part of this team.
Thanks so much, Shuli. And how about Rabbi Sid Schwartz?
Yes, Sid Schwartz. I'm based right outside of Washington, D.C. I'm a senior fellow with CLAL, the National Jewish Center for Learning and Leadership. I do a lot of work with young rabbis reinventing the American synagogue, and do a lot of writing and lecturing about the future of American Jewish life. My most recent book is called Jewish Megatrends, Charting the Course of the American Jewish Future.
Great. Thanks so much, Sid. And Sue Dickman.
Hi, I'm the Executive Vice President and CEO of the Jewish Communal Fund. We're a donor-advised fund located here in New York, and I'm really excited to be part of this.
Great. Thanks so much, Sue. And how about some of our colleagues from the Common Pool? Jason, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. My name is Jason Morgan. I'm the CEO of the Common Pool and Rampant Software, and our firms were responsible for working with the Genesis team and Bloomberg Philanthropies on the design of this challenge. But we also created the website and customized the platform that you'll see today, which allows entrants to communicate with one another, to submit their applications, and for you, the judges, to score those applications using a common rubric.
Great. Thanks, Jason. Oh, go ahead, Lynn.
And this is, I'm Lynn Van Devender, and I'm the Director of Projects for the Common Pool, and I'm based in Seattle, Washington.
And how about Jordan?
Sure. I'm Jordan Blumhart. I am a prize administrator for the Common Pool and Rampant. I am located here in Nashville, Tennessee. And that's it for me, I guess.
Great. Excellent. So this is actually our third of 3 webinars. We spoke with judges yesterday and also on Friday to share some instructions with them. It's so nice to hear all of you live after being in email communication for some time. Before we begin with the demonstration, I thought I would just give a brief refresher on the Genesis Generation Challenge. It's been a few months since it's been announced, but as most of you know, Mike Bloomberg announced back in May that he wanted to invest his $1 million Genesis Prize in a competition for young adults to better the world, and of course, guided by Jewish values. So we spent much of the summer marketing and preparing for the competition, and we opened the registration and submission period on August 1st. We held 2 launch events in August, one at Bloomberg Philanthropies and one in D.C. At 6th and I Historic Synagogue. And at both of those events, we had an opportunity to really meet face-to-face with some of our promising applicants whose applications we're seeing come in now. We have a few pieces of good news that we can share about our competition at this point. We've had over 22,000 visitors to the website from over 170 countries, and we had over 2,000 people register for the competition. Right now, based on how many applications are finished and close to finished, we anticipate we could have a little over 100 completed and valid applications that we'll distribute to all of you for a review. Each of you will probably have approximately 10 applications. It'll probably take you about 45 minutes each to review. So we're talking about 7 to 8 hours of time between November 5th, when we distribute the applications to you, and December 12th, which is the date when your scoring will be due. If you haven't had the opportunity already, though many of you probably have, you can check out the application that's found easily on our website under the About section, genesis-generation.org. You'll see all the questions the applicants had to complete. And you can also, under About, check out the judging process and the scoring rubric that you'll use. And we'll actually talk about both of those things today as we go through the demonstration. So one more thing to let you know before I turn it over. We are recording this webinar so that those who couldn't participate can view it. And also for those of you that might want a refresher, you'll have a video that you can refer to if you need it. And now I'll turn it over to Lynn from the Common Pool, who can share some additional details.
Hello again, everyone. So first of all, thank you, and thank you for joining this morning. As Allie mentioned, you can go to the genesis-generation.org website to read up on the specifics of the competition. One of the advantages of our program design is that we've been very transparent, open, and fair in terms of what's required to participate. We'll be assessing these applications, how they'll be assessed, and how your scores and comments will be used. And all of that information is available both for you and for all of the participants who have registered to participate in this competition at the website. For today's conversation, we're going to assume that most of you have had a chance to at least a little bit familiarize yourself with the challenge. And what we'll be doing today is that Jordan's going to walk you through the process for scoring the applications that will be assigned to you. I think that there aren't a huge number of us on this call, so I think it's fine if everyone wants to. Typically, we wait for questions and answers until the end of the demonstration. But if you have questions as we're going along, feel free to jump right in. The only thing I'll caution you is if there starts to be a lot of noise on the lines, right now it's really quiet, but if there starts to be a lot of noise, I may end up muting folks. So if you're trying to talk and you're not getting a response, it may be that I've muted you. And then you can either type in the chat box or just wait to the end to get your question answered. We anticipate that it'll take about 15 or 20 minutes to get through the demonstration. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jordan.
Okay, we will go ahead and start here on the main page of the website. First of all, we'll just log in. At the login button at the top of the page, you will be provided the credentials to do this if you haven't already. We're going to log in as a test judge. When you log in, you'll be brought to the dashboard page. If you don't already see this judging history box on the page, you will be able to find it in the Add Dashboard Items drop-down menu. This gives you kind of a summary of the judging history, all of the submissions that you have to judge. In order to review the entire page and all of the features that are provided on it, though, we're going to go ahead and go to the full page by clicking on Go to Full Page at the bottom of that box. Or you can also access it in the dashboard menu by clicking Judging History. On this page, you're provided with a number of different types of information. First of all, you're provided with a link to review that submission, who submitted that submission, who is responsible for submitting that submission, the start date of judging, the score that you provided for that submission within your judging, whether or not you've finished the rubric, which means whether or not you've finished all of the judging criterion. We will explain those a little bit later. And finally, the closed date will tell you when you closed and finalized those scores. And the print icon here on the very right will give you a box that will show all of your scores well, it'll show you the entire submission, so you can review it here, or you can also, while you're in here, under the printing icon, you can click for a printable version that will allow you to actually print that submission, so you can review it that way. Okay, now we'll go ahead and walk through some of the technical side of the judging. First of all, we'll want to click on Review here on the very left. Once you click on Review, you'll be brought to a judging page. If you want to review the submission from this page, you can click on the box here, the submission box, and it will expand, showing you the entire submission and all of the information on it. When you're done reviewing that submission, if you have expanded that box, you can click it again to collapse it, so that you can see your judging rubric. On this judging rubric, there are 4 different judging criteria that you will be judging by. I'll go ahead and walk you through the technical aspects of how to do the judging, and then I believe Ali will be able to provide you some more information as far as this whole judging process goes. First of all, you'll want to, on the judging criterion, read the black box at the top to kind of give you an idea of what you'll be scoring by. When you know what you want to score for that submission, you can come down here to the bubble on this scoring bar and drag it to the appropriate score. One way to know really what's appropriate for that submission as far as scoring goes is to review these text sections or these descriptions above each scoring section. That will give you kind of an idea of what that submission needs to include in order to get that score. When you're done scoring, you are also required to give a comment or feedback to the participant. That comment needs to be at least 50 characters, but can also be much longer if you'd like it to be. I'm going to go ahead and put in a sample one here. Okay, make sure I got over 50 characters. When you're done with the section, you will want to click Save to save that particular judging criterion. And once you've saved that, you can continue by clicking Next. Once again, you'll repeat that same process on this page. If at any time you want to step away from the judging, or maybe move on to maybe do one criterion for each submission, or however you want to do the judging, if you want to, for any reason, leave this page, any section that you have saved will stay saved, and to get back to the judging overview page, you can click the judging overview button here next to the save button, and that will just take you back to the judging overview page. If you have completed part of the submission or one of the judging criterion, when you click the review button and return to that particular submission, it will bring you back to the very next judging criterion that you did not complete. So you'll see here that we've been brought back to judging criterion number 2. So once again, we'll read that black box to see what we need to score, provide the appropriate score, and a comment.
Jordan, it's Greg Shurkin. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Will the applicants or the participants know who is judging their application?
So this is Jason. As it's currently constructed, Greg, they will be getting the scores and the comments from each judge, but I don't believe we're revealing the identity of each judge against each score and comment. And Ali, you can confirm that. I believe that's the case, correct?
That's right, yes.
Okay, thanks.
So it's your discretion about what you want to put in the comments box. You're certainly welcome to reveal your identity. We found that some judges actually like to do that. They like to be held accountable. Maybe even they really like the applicant, and they want an exchange with the applicant, but that's up to you.
Okay, that's helpful to know. Thanks, Jason.
Ali, can I ask a question? Shmuley.
Sure.
At some point on this call, or if there's going to be an email that clarifies policies around conflicts of interest. Not only folks we know or know folks who know folks, or causes that are close to our heart or causes we disagree with, if there's some kind of guidance that could be provided around that, because I imagine most of us are highly connected with these individuals and their projects.
That's a great question, Shmuley. And actually, we have an email penned to go out by the end of this week to all of the judges about exactly that issue, about conflict of interest. But I can give you just a brief, answer to your question now, so you know. We actually have a preliminary list of organizations both involved in the competition and ones that those involved in the competition have identified as being close to them. Our plan is going to be to distribute that to the judges, so all of you can review it and let us know if you see any conflicts in that list of organizations. And then there will be an opportunity if you do, by coincidence, happen to get an application that you feel it would be inappropriate for you to review, there will be a process whereby you can request that be swapped out for one that you don't have a conflict with. So we'll detail that in an email, but yes, it's a great question.
Hey, Ali, do you mind if I add a couple comments to that?
Please.
Okay, so Rabbi Shmuley, we get this question a lot in all of our competitions. I think there are some other details that you can acquaint yourself with. First of all, you should all know that this scoring process goes through a statistically normalized algorithm, which means that for every completed application that passes Ali's administrative review, there will be 5 judges assigned to that applicant. And so while you may have some familiarity with an applicant, or there may be even the appearance of a conflict of interest, please know that you are only 20% of that scoring process, and actually through this normalization, your ability to affect dramatically the scores of any one applicant, the aggregate scores of any one applicant, is fairly marginal. Next, you should know that we pick you judges because we think you're all good actors, and so we actually think that having some familiarity with these applicants is a good thing. We think you're going to use that information appropriately, but we also realize that if there's any perception of conflict, that we want to be sensitive to that. And so as you consider where to raise a potential conflict of interest, please know that those effects are mitigated by the process, and that we don't see it as a deal killer if you happen to know a little something about one or two teams.
Great.
This is Sid. I just want to ask a question on the other side of that, and that is there an opportunity for judges to say, to indicate a preference for a field? So, for example, I would feel myself more highly qualified to judge an application in the field of social justice than in the arts, for example. Is that considered or not?
Ali, if you don't mind, I'll take the first crack at that. So we actually do implement a random distribution of those applicants. The reason for that is that, A, it's very tough to categorize some of these applications. A great many of them will cross over your typical fields. Social justice can also mean education. It can also mean many, many other things, as you're aware. Second of all, we don't know what categories are going to be filled because the applicants won't be submitting their final applications until midnight Eastern Standard Time this late evening. And so trying to make those fair distributions becomes a very cumbersome process in itself and rarely satisfies all of our interests. And so we've composed this trade scoring rubric so that it looks towards more general screens, and we assume that all of you have both subject matter expertise in a particular field such as social justice, but also know good project planning, but also know what feasibility means for these application requirements, and can also understand the other criteria that are in the rubric.
Okay.
That's a great question.
If there are any further questions, we can take those. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and proceed here. Just go ahead and jump in, cut me off if you need to. I'll just go ahead and finish out this application or this judging very quickly, and then speak to a few things back on the judging history page. Once again, we'll just go ahead and fill these out as I've described, read the description, provide the score, and then a comment.
So while Jordan is doing that, I want to offer a couple of notes. We have learned over time that there are different ways that judges approach this process, and one is to go through it sequentially, the way that Jordan is doing now. The other is to read all of the applications, to score all of the applications, and then to go through and to close out all the application afterwards, and perhaps even go back and make adjustments once you realize the full range of quality that's been distributed to you. And so the system is very adaptive, it's very flexible, it allows you to go about this process in any number of different ways. And as Jordan saves the fourth criterion here, you'll see he'll go back to the judging overview, and then you'll be presented with other options which will provide you that flexibility.
Yeah, as Jason was saying, there is a close now button, or in relation to what he's saying. When you get back here, if you've completed and saved all of the judging criterion, a close now button will appear in the row of that particular submission. If you click that close now button, it will completely close out your judging on that submission and say I'm completely done with that. But if you do want the opportunity to be able to come back and review it again or change any scores or anything like that, you'll want to wait to click that close now button until you know you are completely finalized with that score. When you are finished scoring, or when you have provided any score, a score will appear in the score column, and when you have finished all judging criterions, your rubric will update to saying, yes, you have finished your rubric. If you do want to quickly review the scores that you have provided for that submission, you can click on the score itself. A box will appear showing all of the judging criterions, the scores you provided, and your comments for each one. So you can quickly review them all right here. I guess finally, technically, if you need a review of this entire process again at any point, there is a help video available on this page. If you just click on help at the top right of the page, a video will appear here that you can click on and view. Or you can read through the instructions by clicking on the show closed caption button. That pretty much concludes the technical process for walking through all of this. Ali, do you have additional information you'd like to share about the judging criterion or the process?
Sure, and it's that exact thing. It's the criterion. I thought I would just go through quickly, and
Sure.
Now that we understand the technical process, I just wanted to review each of the criteria with the group and see if anybody had any questions. As Jordan took us through the system, you saw that there were four criteria which you'll use to judge each application. And the first one is collaborative, and as you could probably guess from the title, this really focuses on how collaborative the project is, but from a few different perspectives. One is really about how collaborative and cohesive the internal team is that's been pulled together. And then is that collaborative team demonstrating that they really have a shared vision of where they want to go? And then also a little, from a different perspective, looking externally. How collaborative is that team with external organizations or partners or others who will allow them to help their project succeed? So we're really asking you to evaluate the project based on a few of those different elements in this collaborative section. In the second criterion, intentional, this really refers to how clear the solution is in articulating how it will deliver benefit and being able to show that it's really driven by Jewish values. So, how intentional and impactful can the project be, and how clear is it that it is really driven by Jewish values? The third criterion, feasible, also is really focuses on the meaning of that word, and really is that application, is that project presenting a feasible plan, a realistic budget that makes clear not only how the project will be done, but how it can be successful. So that's what we're getting at with feasible. Not only is it a good idea, but has the team been able to articulate that it's one that is implementable and one that can be successful. And then last, we'd really like you to focus on scalable. So yes, we want great ideas. We want great ideas that can be implemented and succeed. But we also are curious to know if this idea is something that could be expanded beyond the initial set of benefactors. And could it be something that could grow over time and have even more impact if it could get larger in scale? So that's what we're asking you to look at when it comes to scalable. And I'd encourage you to pull out this rubric prior to reading each application, so that as you're reading them, you're really thinking about these 4 things. You know, that the applicants purposefully were looking at this rubric ahead of time, and we published it for the applicants ahead of time, so they would know exactly what was being used to score them. Are there any questions on the specific judging criteria? Okay. Are there any questions more broadly, generally on the technology system, on the criteria, anything else that anyone wanted to ask?
Yeah, this may be on the technical side. This is Sid. Is it the case that at some date, like tomorrow or next week, we'll have a personalized site on the website and 10 applications will appear in our box that are just ours?
That's exactly right. By November 5th, and most likely on November 5th, you will receive an email, and Jason, Jordan, jump in here if I misspeak, but you will receive an email that will contain a user ID and password that is specific to you. And as soon as you log in, as Jordan did at the beginning of this presentation, you will see this screen actually that's right in front of you. Which is your quote, your application inbox, and you can click on each of those submissions and begin reviewing them. And these instructions will be detailed in the email that we send you about a week from tomorrow.
Yeah, and this is Jason. I would just add that you're going to get a video that walks through exactly what you saw here. As soon as you access your dashboard, your judging history, you can click in the upper right-hand corner where it says Help, and you can get a similar video. You will also have access to the prize administration team if you have questions which aren't answered in those videos. And you have approximately 5 weeks to undertake this exercise. I would also let you know that our platform is designed in such a way that Allie will have a monitoring system in place, so she'll know exactly how many of your assigned applications you've opened, how many you've scored, how closely you've come to completing the scoring process for each assigned application, and how many of those have been closed out. So she'll be looking at that closely as we get closer and closer to your deadline, and she may be contacting you to talk with you about what support you might need or why you may or may not be on track towards completing your assigned applications.
Does that make Allie Citizen 5?
Big brother.
I think I read somewhere, is it the case that every application is coming from a team or from an individual?
Every applicant comes from a team. You had to, this was a team competition, so we actually are not accepting applications solely from individuals.
Yeah, and I know that Lynn and Allie have said it, but I would like to repeat it. If the whole design of this competition was really written so that we were providing value to the teams that might participate and say not win, right? So we really wanted this to be a positive exchange with a very large community. And so to reinforce that notion and to make sure everybody was being treated fairly, on the website we published the application requirements, the trade scoring rubric. We even published the normalization algorithm. And so today you can go to that public-facing site and read all that information. Any questions you might have about what's specifically required are all described in detail on the site. And then to kind of punctuate that, we really wanted to make sure that your scores are, and your comments are available to all those teams. And that feedback loop is extremely important. So the quality of your comments is really a large part of this whole process. And so as we survey other people that participate in these competitions, we've learned that getting substantive feedback from 5 credible authorities through a process like this is sometimes even more rewarding than the opportunity to win a grant. And so we really think that publishing that information is important, and that's why we've even published your credentials on the site so they know where that information is coming from.
So are the other 4 judges from the same pool?
Yes, they are. They're all from our evaluation panel, who are all identified on the public-facing website. You are one of the evaluation panel members, and 5 evaluation panel members will be assigned to each completed application.
Got it. And will we see the names of all the people on the team when we read the application?
Well, what you'll see in the application is that there is a section at the very beginning of the application which requires them to not only describe who their team members are, but what their relationship is with each other. There's a later question which actually requires them to describe not only the team's relationship to each other, but their also relationship to external parties, other partner organizations. And so you'll get that in the narrative section of the application, and you'll also have other opportunities to look at kind of who those folks are, what their credentials are, how they might have a shared vision for the purpose of the application. There's a lot of qualitative, naturalistic data that'll come out of the applications.
Jason, are the 4 criteria weighted equally?
Yes, great question, Greg. They are weighted equally, and you get an opportunity to kind of comply with the structure of the rubric, which is to say, you know, while a 4.5 on a 5-point scale for criterion number 1 is defined by the subscoring range definition, through your comments you're allowed to elaborate on that or maybe further clarify what you meant by a 4.5. So while they're equally weighted, you get an opportunity to comment upon what you really meant for each of the criteria, or perhaps even how important that criterion is for you.
Thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions? Great.
I'll just say that this looks like a great platform, very user friendly, and I'm looking forward to working with it.
Great. Excellent. Thank you, and thanks Common Pool as well. Thank you everyone so much for joining us live on the phone. We really appreciate it. As I mentioned, we will send out the video, and also you can be looking out next week for an email that has your credentials and your application distribution. If you have any questions in the meantime, if you have any questions throughout the process, you can always, as Jason mentioned, contact me, arose@genesisprize.org, as well as the Common Pool, administrators through the system if you have any questions.